Recombinant immunotoxins are proteins designed to specifically kill cancer cells. And they're composed of a piece of an antibody that binds to the cancer cell and a piece of toxin which then goes inside the cell and kills the cell. So it's a kind of magic bullet. Well, when antibody therapy began, I thought it was clear that antibodies, without having some poison attached to them, would not be as successful as people had hoped. And so I was trained in protein engineering, and I thought it would be fun, useful, interesting to find an antibody that binds to a cancer cell and arm it with a poison. And since I had to use a protein made by a protein to use recombinant DNA techniques to attach it to an antibody, I chose a powerful bacterial protein. And at that time, there were very few alternative ways to arm a protein. Currently, in addition to the proteins we work on, immunotoxins, there are now a lot of antibodies that have very potent drugs attached to them also. But they work by the same principle. The antibody brings some very poisonous compound to the cell to kill the cell. Well, one advantage is they're targeted. The antibody brings the poison, the toxin, to the cell. And the second advantage is that the toxin kills cells by a special mechanism of action, different from how standard anti-cancer drugs kill cells, different from, say, Taxol, and different from anthracyclines. And that means it can kill cells that may be resistant to killing by Taxol or anthracyclines or other chemotherapies. So we have been focusing on patients with leukemia with an immunotoxin licensed to AstraZeneca called moxetumomab pasudotox. It's a long, complicated name. We call it Moxie. And it has been tested in patients with a drug-resistant form of hairy cell leukemia. And in the initial trials, we were able to get complete remissions in more than half the patients. And some of these remissions have lasted 8 or 9 years now, since we began our program. So that's been a great success, and that drug is now in what we call pivotal trials for FDA approval. The second drug we developed targets a protein called mesothelin that's in many malignancies, including mesothelioma. And we've recently reported that if we combined our immunotoxin against mesothelioma with some immunosuppressive therapy, we've been able to get extraordinary responses in patients with advanced mesothelioma. Mesothelioma is a very deadly disease, and we treated patients who had failed all therapies for mesothelioma. And 3 of the 10 patients we treated are alive 3 years later, which is a remarkable result, almost disease-free.